The Trump administration working on a plan to move 1 million Palestinians to Libya. This is going to be hilarious. Details are murky and no final agreement has been reached, but the plan is under serious enough consideration that the administration has discussed it with Libyan leadership. NBC News reports the Trump administration is working on a plan to permanently relocate up to 1 million Palestinians from the Gaza Strip to Libya. 5 people with knowledge of the effort told NBC News. The plan is under serious enough consideration that the administration has discussed it with Libya's leadership. 2 people with direct knowledge of the plans and a former U.S. official said. In exchange for the resettling of Palestinians, the administration would potentially release to Libya billions of dollars of funds that the U.S. froze more than a decade ago, those 3 people said. No final agreement has been reached, and Israel has been kept informed of the administration's discussion, the same 3 sources said. The State Department and the National Security Council did not respond to multiple requests for comment before this article was published. After publication, a spokesperson told NBC News these reports are untrue, which is,
part of the
really
course.
mean anything.
Yeah.
So does this a genocide make? The ability, if you can actually get the Palestinians out of Gaza, because I'm of the opinion that the war so far is not actually a genocide. A lot of people have died, and it's bad, and it's perfectly fine to be critical of the way that Israel's carrying out the war, but I don't consider it a genocide. If they are actually going to remove everybody from the Gaza Strip, especially if it's permanently, I think that might actually be closer to the definition of genocide.
Yeah, but doesn't the genocide? I don't have it looked up, but isn't it like killing?
Well, so if you're trying to remove people from a place by killing them and actually getting them out, I think that falls under the definition of genocide. I'm not particularly I'd have to Google it to make sure. I don't think that the war in Gaza is considered a genocide, mostly because I think that the Palestinian, the Hamas started it. And I kind of am like, if you guys are picking the fight, it's not a genocide. Just because you're losing the war that you started.
It would be. It's international destruction of a whole or part of a national, ethnic, or racial, religious. So like if they moved them out of there, they'd be destroying them from that area. So
Yeah,
maybe
so that might actually qualify as a genocide.
Yeah, so I'll be level. Hamas absolutely started it.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm a student of Ron Paul in the Mises Institute. I'm fundamentally a non-interventionist and not just America first. I'm America only. One, the president has denied that this is true. Like, he's denied it. So it's not happening. That being said, when we can look beyond just nationality, ethnic origin, I'm more interested in what is going on in the United States. Right now, there's 11 to 15 million illegal immigrants, regardless of where they are from. Rather than moving Palestinians to Libya, I'd much rather move 11 to 15 million illegal immigrants back to where they originally came from.
Yeah. Fair enough. I tend to agree with you. Do you guys have a take on this?
I mean, I have a pretty
Should they be sent to the Congo?
I have a pretty, admittedly utopian idea of foreign policy, meaning in the same thing, which is America first, and I don't really care to see us being involved in these types of things. And if the idea here is that you're going to displace a whole bunch of people and move them, apparently on the American dime, using U.S. government might to do so, I don't care if you can't even get a spending bill through here and you can't even take care of the people here. I don't really have the interest in it, and I don't really care.
I'm convinced. Yes, I agree. Everything what Brett said.
Yeah. It's not the most sophisticated take, but usually when this type of stuff comes up, it's like, how can you expect me to take you seriously when you can't even figure out the things going on here with the people whose lives are affected directly each and every day? And this happens, and I bring this up on here all the time. It's like every time there's a natural disaster, the U.S. government puts on a clinic on how to not handle something, whether it's Hawaii, whatever it is. They screw up everything, and I'm supposed to imagine that my tax dollars, your tax dollars, should be going to taking care of this, which has nothing to do with me and nothing to do with the millions of Americans who suffer each and every day. It's actually comical to me. But again, like I said, I don't have the most sophisticated view on foreign policy, and I understand that there's a lot that goes into it with trade and protectionism and all of these things. I just don't care.
Well, I mean, if they're if they're in Libya, then I think that's too far to shoot homemade rockets at Israel. So the Israelis should like that, right?
Are there open air slave trade, right, going on there too?
Where in Libya?
Libya, yeah.
Well, if I understand correctly, Libya's actually kind of cleaned up some of
Okay.
the slave
Okay,
trade that was going on after Gaddafi was killed. Like for a couple of years afterward, yes, there was slavery was back on the menu, boys. They were definitely involved in the slave trade, and I don't think that. They may have cleaned it up, but I don't think that it's some kind of Western paradise or
Sure, yeah, 100%.
I just saw the thing about Cory Bush and Ayanna Pressley talking about another reparations bill. Am I going to have to pay reparations in Libya in like 20 years? Like, I don't want to do that either.
Yes, you will.
Like-
Actually,
No.
I can imagine. I can't believe that they're talking about more reparations here in the United States.
I'm just saying, we'll find a way. They'll find a way to spend the money.
Well, I mean, I do think that they'll find a way to spend the money. So actually talking about the cost, NBC News was saying such an effort would likely be extremely expensive, and it's not clear how the Trump administration would seek to pay for it. In the past, the administration has said Arab nations would help with rebuilding Gaza after the war there ends, but they have been critical of Trump's idea of permanently relocating Palestinians. In recent weeks, the Trump administration has also looked at Libya as a place where it could send some immigrants it wants to deport from the U.S. However, plans to send one group of immigrants to Libya were stalled by a federal judge this month. I'm not sure sending immigrants in the United States to Libya is a good idea. Listen, what's his name? Palmer Luckey, who's one of the CEOs or one of the guys from Mara, Libya, one of the guys that started Andril, or the guy that started Andril. He has a great idea called Liberty City in Guantanamo, and basically dump a bunch of money into Guantanamo and make it into an actual like spaceport, and because there's an eternal lease on the property, and it's close to the equator, so launching rockets to space is actually viable from there. That one of the things is you want to launch rockets from close to the equator. Apparently, I didn't know that until recently.
I mean, it makes sense.
But he's also saying, if you could get to Liberty City from Cuba, then you'll get a passport or get a green card if you can find a job, or if they can train you or something. And I do think that sending illegal immigrants from the United States, people that are not, or illegal immigrants that are here in the United States that shouldn't be here, particularly if they're criminals, send them to Gitmo. I don't have any kind of problem with that. I think it's a good use of the installation.
Do they have to take a boat over and see if they make it or not, or do we give them a plane ride?
Maybe this is where they host that ICE reality show they were talking
I was
about.
thinking a raft made of
Like wood?
Coca-Cola bottles.
Oh.
Yeah, just screw the caps on, tie those bad boys together.
Couple of, yeah.
What's the meme? It's like waterboarding on Guantanamo Bay sounds sick until you think about it.
Yeah, right. What do you think? Do you think that that's out of the question? I understand you're, as a Ron Paul guy, you're kind of like, I don't know, but what do we do? What do we do with the illegal immigrants that are here, particularly the dangerous ones? And what would you say about how do we get rid of them if it were up to you?
I would say send them back to from where they came from. I get that there are some countries that don't want to take them back, and I get it. I don't want them in my country either. So that said, they're not our problem. Now,
Well, if they're here,
they're our problem now, but I want them to no longer be our
fair enough,
problem.
okay.
I want to. So, in terms of Gitmo, I was a huge skeptic of Gitmo until I saw what governors were doing to people in 2020, and then I sort of took on the Michael Malice perspective of it, of governors to Gitmo at
Politicians
that
to
point.
Gitmo.
But that said, I'm not fundamentally opposed to the idea of just shipping them off to a foreign installation that we look. The reality is this: we need to get them out of the United States one way or another. And things that we can do, there's things that we can do at the state level. There's a federal program called 287G that makes it to where ICE can deputize local and state law enforcement for purposes of immigration enforcement. What a force multiplier that could be.
Yeah.
And something along those lines is something that we can absolutely do in order to help out with that, because one of the things that we have is we have a volume issue. As I mentioned, the conservative estimate is 11 to 15 million. There's estimates that go as high up into the 40 millions. So we need to crack down on illegal immigration. I think that's largely state and federal partnerships, partnerships with foreign nations. El Salvador is, in my view, doing God's work in helping us with making sure that criminal illegal immigrants are deported as swiftly and efficiently as possible. Unfortunately, our own courts are not necessarily doing that, especially given the Supreme Court decision today. Now, that was a narrow holding where they just said that the notice was insufficient. So it was a setback. That said, President Trump seems absolutely adamant about getting as many illegal immigrants out as humanly possible. Part of that, I think, as well, though, is making sure that we're focused on defending our own borders and not the borders of foreign nations, right? We're spending so much money abroad, we're not really focusing on the internal. And I can think of an empire that collapsed under similar circumstances.
So we shouldn't send them to Libya?
If they're from Libya.
There you go. No, I mean, but the story we're talking about, go full circle, is Palestinians going to Libya.
Oh, it's not happening.
Not happening?
It's, the president's the White House has denied it. It's
Okay.
I think it's the media just trying to get clicks, concocting a story because they just are. You just look to the ratings.
Well, Israel gets a lot of clicks. Any story about Gaza, any story about Israel, it'll get people to click on it and get people to talk.
So
about
what is the actual benefit? Like, so you're saying that the idea would be to ship people that are here illegally now to what was it, Libya, or was that
Well, so there are some people that are
to
here
Guantanamo? I'm
illegally.
sorry, to Guantanamo. That was the other.
I
thing
think that it's a good idea to send criminal aliens that are.
So they're
legal
still
immigrants
legally,
that are criminals.
So they're still legally under your jurisdiction, but away from the American people.
Yeah.
Okay. Rather than, is that because we can't get them? The countries they're from won't take them back.
Yeah, if they're criminals, if they've committed violent crimes here in the U.S. And we can't get their country of origin to take them back, we should send them to Guantanamo Bay.
Because the other country won't take them.
Because
Okay.
the other country
All right.
won't
I
take
understand.
any country that'll accept the illegal aliens here, send them back to their own country. Like if the country won't give us hassle, if they're like, yeah, fine, land here, they're not criminals, or whatever, they can go do whatever they want. That's fine with me. That's the best option. People that are criminals, people that have committed crimes here, or that are gang members, that their countries of origin don't want them back, then ship them to Gitmo. Lock them up in there. That's in my opinion the best option there. Get them away from the American people, prevent them from being able to hurt the American people anymore. And then we've talked about this on the show a bunch, but for people that are not criminals, that are just here, that are not violent criminals or whatever, that are just here illegally, that's their crime, that I think we should, ratchet up the pressure on them to make them self-deport. So start making sure that start doing ICE raids, doing more ICE raids to business owners. Start making sure that if you own a business, put the word out. If you own a business and you hire illegal aliens, knowingly hire illegal aliens, you're going to lose your business. The government will take it because the consequences have to be bad.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of
When all you're doing is paying a fine, they just take that as cost benefit analysis.
Yeah, because exactly because right now the situation is it's significantly less expensive to pay illegals to work than it is to pay Americans, because you don't have all the taxes that go along with it. The illegals will work for cheap because they'll live in a significantly their living conditions, they'll have significantly lower living conditions than normal Americans, and they'll send half their money back home. And that money, when they get back to their country of origin in 10 years after they've been saving or whatever, they'll live like kings. The amount of money that you need to send back to Guatemala or whatever to have a really, really nice lifestyle, it's not a lot. You can go down there, if you can save up 50 grand over 10 years, you can go down there and live really, really well on that kind of money. You can save you can make sure that your mom's taken care of, your family's taken care of.
Yeah, your wife and kids, if you're
Yeah,
a lot of men come over, so they take care of the families like that.
Yeah, so it's a strong incentive. So you have to make sure that businesses know if you hire people that are here illegally, you're not just going to get a fine. You're going to lose your property. You're going to lose your business.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.